3 True Dating App Horror Stories. Story 1. The perfect match. Sarah had been on dating apps for 3 years. At 28, she was starting to lose hope of finding someone genuine. Most guys just wanted hookups or would ghost her after a few dates. Then she matched with David. David was different. His profile showed a successful marketing executive with a warm smile and kind eyes. He had pictures of himself hiking, cooking elaborate meals, and volunteering at an animal shelter. His bio was thoughtful and funny. When they started chatting, he asked real questions about her interests, her job as a kindergarten teacher, and her dreams. Their conversations flowed naturally. David remembered little details she mentioned. He would ask how her difficult student was doing, or if her sister had recovered from her cold. After 2 weeks of messaging, he suggested they meet for coffee at a quiet cafe downtown. Sarah spent an hour getting ready, choosing a casual but cute outfit. She arrived at the cafe 10 minutes early, nervous but excited. David was already there, looking exactly like his photos. He stood up when he saw her, gave her a warm hug, and complimented her dress. The date went perfectly. David was charming, attentive, and interesting. He told her about his work, his travels to Europe, and his close relationship with his mother. He listened intently when she talked about her students and her passion for teaching. When they parted ways, he kissed her cheek and said he couldn't wait to see her again. Their second date was dinner at an upscale Italian restaurant. David picked her up in his clean BMW and brought her flowers. Over wine and pasta, their conversation grew deeper. He talked about wanting a family someday, about his values and goals. Sarah felt like she had finally found her person. By the 4th date, Sarah was falling hard. David invited her to his apartment, a modern place with expensive furniture and abstract art on the walls. He cooked her an amazing dinner and they watched movies on his huge TV. When she used his bathroom, she noticed how immaculately clean everything was. Even his medicine cabinet was organized perfectly. That night, Sarah left one of her earrings on his nightstand by accident. She texted him about it the next morning, but he said he couldn't find it. That was strange, but she brushed it off. Over the next few weeks, they became official. David would surprise her with thoughtful gifts, plan romantic dates, and text her sweet messages throughout the day. Her friends were jealous of how perfect he seemed. Sarah started spending more nights at his place. One evening, while David was in the shower, Sarah decided to make them both coffee. She went to his kitchen and started looking through his cabinets for mugs. In the cabinet above the stove, behind some fancy dishes, her hand touched something small and hard. It was her missing earring. Sarah stared at it, confused. Why would David lie about not finding it? And why was it hidden behind dishes instead of somewhere obvious? A cold feeling crept up her spine. She put the earring back and tried to act normal when David came out of the bathroom. But questions nagged at her. That night she couldn't sleep. When David went to the kitchen for water, she quietly opened his nightstand drawer. Inside was a small wooden box. With shaking hands, she opened it. The box contained a collection of small items. A hair tie she had been looking for. A lipstick she thought she had lost. A small silver ring she wore sometimes. A pen with her school's logo that had disappeared from her purse. And underneath it all, printed photos of her that she had never seen before. The photos showed her at work, walking to her car, grocery shopping, getting coffee. Someone had been following her and taking pictures before they had even matched on the dating app. Sarah's blood went cold. She quietly closed the box and pretended to sleep when David returned. Her mind raced. How long had he been watching her? How did he know where she worked and shopped? Had their match been a coincidence, or had he somehow engineered it? The next morning, Sarah made an excuse about feeling sick and left early. At home, she looked at David's dating profile again with new eyes. She reverse searched his photos and found that 2 of them had been stolen from other people's social media accounts. The hiking photo belonged to a fitness influencer. The cooking photo was from a food blogger's website. With growing horror, Sarah realized she had no idea who David really was. She had been dating a complete stranger who had been stalking her and collecting her personal items like trophies. She blocked David on all platforms and changed her phone number, but the story doesn't end there. 2 weeks later, Sarah found a note under her car's windshield wiper. It was David's handwriting. "I know you found my box. We need to talk. I can explain everything. You can't just throw away what we have." Sarah called the police, but they said they needed more evidence to file charges. The note wasn't technically threatening, and they couldn't prove he had been stalking her before they met. More notes appeared. On her apartment door, in her school mailbox, tucked into her grocery bag somehow. Each one was more desperate than the last. "You're making a mistake, Sarah. We're meant to be together. I did everything for you." The worst part was that David seemed to know her schedule perfectly. The notes appeared right after she had been somewhere, like he was always watching but staying just out of sight. Sarah started looking over her shoulder constantly. She changed her routine, took different routes to work, and stopped going to her usual coffee shop. But the notes kept coming. David somehow always knew where she had been. 3 months later, Sarah's neighbor told her she had seen a man sitting in a car outside her building several nights in a row. The description matched David perfectly. Sarah finally got a restraining order, but she never felt safe again. She moved to a different part of town and deleted all her social media accounts. She never used dating apps again. The scariest part wasn't that David had lied about who he was. It was that he had created the perfect version of himself, based on what he learned while stalking her. He knew exactly what she wanted to hear because he had been watching her for months before they ever matched. Sarah still wonders how many other women David might have done this to. How many perfect matches on dating apps are actually predators who have been watching their victims from the shadows, learning their habits and preferences before making contact. Sometimes she catches glimpses of men who look like David in crowds. Her heart stops until she realizes it's not him. But the fear never completely goes away. She learned that the person you think you're falling in love with might not exist at all. Story 2. The photographer Emma was a 24-year-old graphic designer who lived alone in a studio apartment downtown. She had been using various dating apps for about a year with mixed results. Most dates were awkward or disappointing, but she kept trying because her friends kept telling her success stories. One Thursday evening, she matched with someone named Marcus. His profile said he was 29, a freelance photographer and new to the city. His photos showed an attractive guy with dark hair and an easy smile. What caught Emma's attention was that his pictures were clearly professional quality, not typical phone selfies. Marcus messaged her first. "Your profile caught my eye. You have a great smile and I love that you're into art. I'm a photographer and always appreciate someone with a creative eye." They chatted for a few days. Marcus was charming and seemed genuinely interested in her work. He shared some of his photography, mostly landscapes and street scenes that were genuinely impressive. When he asked her out, Emma said yes. They met at a trendy coffee shop in the Arts District. Marcus was even better looking in person and dressed stylishly in all black. He brought his camera bag and showed her more of his work on his laptop. Emma was impressed by his talent and his passion for photography. "I'm working on a new project," Marcus explained. "I'm documenting the real beauty of everyday women in the city. Not models or actresses, but genuine natural beauty like yours." Emma blushed. She had always been self-conscious about her appearance, but Marcus made her feel beautiful and interesting. Their first date went so well that they made plans for a second. Marcus suggested they meet at a small gallery opening where he knew the artist. Emma dressed up more than usual, wanting to fit in with the art crowd. At the gallery, Marcus introduced her to several people as "my friend Emma," the talented graphic designer. He seemed to know everyone and moved through the crowd confidently. Emma felt proud to be with someone so connected and sophisticated. After the gallery, they went to dinner. Over wine, Marcus brought up his photography project again. "I've been thinking about what I said about documenting real beauty," he said, reaching across the table to touch her hand. You would be perfect for this project. You have such expressive eyes and natural grace. Emma was flattered but hesitant. I don't know. I'm not really comfortable being photographed. It wouldn't be anything inappropriate, Marcus assured her. Just artistic portraits. Black and white, very tasteful. It would actually be great for your professional portfolio too. You could use the images for your website or business cards. Emma found herself considering it. Marcus was a talented photographer, and having professional headshots would be useful for her freelance design work. By their third date, Emma agreed to do a photo session. Marcus suggested his apartment, which he said had great natural light and a clean, minimalist aesthetic perfect for portraits. Marcus lived in a converted loft space that was exactly as he described. White walls, huge windows, and photography equipment set up professionally in one corner. Emma relaxed, seeing how professional everything looked. Just be natural, Marcus said as he adjusted his camera settings. Pretend I'm not here. The session started innocently. Marcus had Emma sit by the window in her regular clothes, capturing her in natural light. He was professional and encouraging, showing her some shots on the camera's display screen. Emma had to admit she looked good in his photos. These are beautiful, she said, surprised at how confident she looked. You're a natural, Marcus replied. Now I'd love to get some shots with a bit more artistic drama. Could you take off your cardigan? The sleeveless top will create better lines. Emma hesitated for a moment but complied. Marcus continued shooting, asking her to look toward the window, then back at the camera, to smile, then look serious. Perfect, he said. Now this might sound odd, but could you let your hair down? And maybe unbutton the top button of your shirt? It's not about being revealing, it's about creating a more relaxed, authentic look. Something felt different about his tone, but Emma told herself she was being paranoid. This was art, after all, and Marcus was a professional. As the session continued, Marcus's requests became more uncomfortable. Could she sit on the floor? Could she lean back more? Could she close her eyes and part her lips slightly? I think we have enough shots, Emma finally said, standing up and reaching for her cardigan. Wait, Marcus said quickly. I have one more setup I'd love to try. There's this beautiful afternoon light coming through the bedroom window. Very soft and romantic. Emma felt a chill. I think we're done for today. Marcus's expression changed subtly. The warm, encouraging photographer persona slipped for just a moment, and Emma saw something cold in his eyes. Of course, he said, his smile returning. You did great. Let me walk you out. Emma left feeling unsettled but told herself she was overreacting. Marcus had been mostly professional and the photos she had seen looked good. A week later, Marcus texted her the photos. Most were beautiful, artistic shots that made Emma look confident and striking. But mixed in were photos she didn't remember him taking, shots where she was adjusting her shirt or running her hands through her hair between poses. The angles were different, more intimate and invasive. Emma felt violated but wasn't sure if she was overreacting. She thanked Marcus for the photos but declined his suggestion for another session. That should have been the end of it, but it wasn't. 2 weeks later, Emma's co-worker showed her something disturbing. She had been browsing a photography forum online and found a thread called Natural Beauty Project. The photos were of different women, all taken in the same white loft space Emma recognized. There were dozens of women, all around Emma's age, all photographed in increasingly compromising positions. The early photos in each series looked professional and artistic, but they progressed to more revealing and intimate shots. Some women appeared to be undressed or in states of undress. Emma's photos were there too, not just the ones she remembered posing for, but others taken from hidden cameras. Shots of her changing clothes when she thought Marcus had left the room. Photos of her from behind as she looked at his other work. Images captured from angles that made her look vulnerable and exposed. The forum members were commenting on the women's bodies, rating them and making crude suggestions. Emma felt sick reading the comments about herself, but the worst part was the thread's description. Documenting my ongoing project photographing unsuspecting subjects. These women think they're doing professional headshots, but they're actually contributing to something much more interesting. Emma realized that everything Marcus had told her was a lie. There was no art project. There was no legitimate photography business. He was luring women to his apartment under false pretenses and secretly photographing them for the entertainment of strangers online. Emma contacted the police, but they said the case was complicated. Marcus hadn't technically forced her to do anything, and she had agreed to be photographed. The hidden camera shots were more problematic, but proving they were taken without consent was difficult. Emma also discovered that Marcus wasn't even his real name. The photography business was fake, and his portfolio contained stolen images from other photographers. She tried to get the photos removed from the forum, but they had already been shared to other sites. Emma hired a lawyer and spent months fighting to get her images taken down from various platforms. The experience left Emma traumatized and paranoid. She stopped dating entirely for over a year. Every time she saw a man with a camera, her heart raced. She became suspicious of anyone who complimented her appearance or seemed too interested in photographing her. Emma learned that predators often target women's insecurities and use professional-sounding opportunities to gain trust. Marcus had expertly manipulated her desire to feel beautiful and her interest in advancing her career. She never found out how many other women Marcus had tricked or whether he was still operating under different names on dating apps. The thought that he might be continuing to victimize women haunted her. Emma now warns other women about the dangers of agreeing to photo sessions with people they meet online. She learned that legitimate photographers have verifiable businesses, references, and clear contracts. Real professionals don't pressure women to undress or take intimate photos, especially not on first meetings in private apartments. The scariest part wasn't the violation itself, but the realization that Emma had walked willingly into a trap. Marcus had seemed so genuine, so professional, and so trustworthy. She learned that predators often appear to be exactly what their victims are looking for. Story 3. The night that never ended. Jessica was a 26-year-old nurse who worked long shifts at the city hospital. She lived with her sister in a small house on the outskirts of town. After a particularly rough breakup 6 months earlier, her friends convinced her to try dating apps to get back out there. Most of her matches led nowhere, but then she connected with someone named Ryan. He was 30, claimed to work in construction, and had a rugged, outdoorsy look that appealed to her. His messages were sweet but not pushy, and he seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. They chatted for about 10 days before Ryan suggested meeting up. He proposed dinner at a restaurant Jessica had never heard of, but when she looked it up online, it seemed nice enough. A small family place about 20 minutes from her house. Jessica was nervous but excited. She told her sister Lisa exactly where she was going and when to expect her back. Lisa made her promise to text updates throughout the evening. Ryan was waiting in the restaurant parking lot when Jessica arrived. He looked just like his photos and greeted her with a friendly hug. The restaurant was cozy and dimly lit, with only a few other customers. Ryan had already gotten them a table in a quiet corner. Dinner started normally. Ryan was charming and attentive, asking about her work as a nurse and sharing stories about construction projects he had worked on. Jessica found herself relaxing and enjoying his company. About halfway through the meal, Jessica started feeling strange. The room seemed to be moving slightly and her thoughts felt fuzzy. She had only had one glass of wine, so she couldn't understand why she felt so disoriented. "Are you okay?" Ryan asked, reaching across the table to touch her hand. "You look a little pale." "I feel weird," Jessica said, trying to focus on his face. Everything seemed to be taking more effort than it should. "Maybe you need some fresh air," Ryan suggested. "My car has good air conditioning. Why don't we sit outside for a few minutes?" Jessica nodded, thinking that sounded reasonable. But when she tried to stand up, her legs felt weak and unsteady. Ryan quickly moved to support her. wrapping his arm around her waist. "Don't worry, I've got you," he said softly. Jessica's memory of the next few minutes was fragmented. She remembered Ryan helping her toward the parking lot. She remembered feeling grateful for his support. She remembered getting into his car and the cool air feeling good on her face. The next thing she clearly remembered was waking up in complete darkness. Jessica was lying on what felt like a thin mattress. Her head was pounding and her mouth was incredibly dry. She tried to sit up but felt dizzy and nauseous. As her eyes adjusted to the darkness, she realized she was in a small, windowless room. The walls appeared to be concrete or cinder block. There was a heavy metal door with no handle on the inside. The only light came from under the door. Jessica was still wearing her dress from dinner, but her shoes and purse were gone. Panic set in as Jessica realized what had happened. Ryan had drugged her and brought her to this place. She was trapped. She pounded on the door and screamed for help until her voice was hoarse, but no one came. The room was completely soundproof. Jessica examined every inch of the space looking for a way out, but there was nothing. Just concrete walls, the metal door, and the thin mattress. Hours passed. Jessica had no way to tell time in the dark room. She drifted in and out of sleep, still feeling the effects of whatever Ryan had given her. Finally, the door opened. Ryan stood in the doorway with a flashlight and a bottle of water. "You're awake," he said calmly. "How are you feeling?" "Let me go," Jessica said, her voice cracking. "Please, just let me go home." "I can't do that yet," Ryan replied, setting the water bottle on the floor. "Drink this. You need to stay hydrated." Jessica was terrified to drink anything Ryan gave her, but she was desperately thirsty. She examined the water bottle carefully. It appeared to be sealed, so she cautiously took small sips. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. Ryan sat down outside the doorway, keeping the flashlight pointed at the floor between them. "I've been watching you for months," he said conversationally. "You have such a kind face. You help people at the hospital. You take care of your sister. You're exactly what I've been looking for." Jessica's blood went cold. "You've been watching me? I work construction all over the city," Ryan explained. "I was doing electrical work at your hospital about 8 months ago. I saw you in the cafeteria and knew you were special. I started following you to learn your routine." He spoke like he was discussing the weather, completely casual about stalking her. "I had to be patient," he continued. "I needed to create the perfect profile to match with you. I studied what kind of men you dated before. I learned about your interests, your schedule, everything." Jessica realized that nothing about their connection had been real. Ryan had manufactured their entire relationship based on months of stalking. "What do you want from me?" she whispered. "I want us to be together," Ryan said simply. "Really together. No distractions, no other people interfering. Just you and me." "This isn't being together," Jessica said. "This is kidnapping." "You'll understand eventually," Ryan replied. "All the women do, given enough time." The phrase "all the women" made Jessica's stomach drop. "What women?" Ryan smiled. "You're not my first girlfriend, Jessica, but you might be my last if everything works out right." He stood up and moved toward the door. "Wait," Jessica called out. "My sister will call the police when I don't come home. People will look for me." "Your sister thinks you went home with me after a great date," Ryan said. "I sent her a text from your phone saying you were staying over and would call tomorrow. By the time anyone realizes something is wrong, we'll be long gone." The door slammed shut, leaving Jessica in darkness again. Over the next few days, Ryan brought her food and water at irregular intervals. Sometimes he would sit and talk to her about his plans for their relationship. He described a cabin he owned in the mountains where they would live together, far from anyone who might interfere. Ryan had thought of everything. He had quit his construction job weeks ago and sold his apartment. He had a truck loaded with supplies parked nearby. All he needed was to keep Jessica sedated and compliant long enough to transport her to the remote cabin. Jessica tried everything she could think of to escape or signal for help. She screamed until her voice gave out. She tried to break down the door with her bare hands until her knuckles were bloody. She searched every inch of the room for weaknesses or hidden openings, but Ryan had done this before. The room was expertly designed to hold someone prisoner. On the fourth day, Jessica heard something that gave her hope. Voices outside the building, multiple people shouting and what sounded like radios crackling. Jessica pounded on the door and screamed as loudly as she could. "Help me, I'm in here. Please help me." The door suddenly burst open. Instead of Ryan, Jessica saw a police officer in tactical gear with his gun drawn. "We've got her," the officer shouted. "She's alive!" Jessica collapsed in relief as paramedics rushed in to check on her. She learned that her sister Lisa had become suspicious when Jessica's text messages seemed out of character. Lisa had called the police, who tracked Jessica's phone to the abandoned warehouse where Ryan had been holding her. But Ryan was gone. He had apparently heard the police arriving and escaped through a back exit. His truck and supplies were gone too. During the investigation, police discovered that Ryan wasn't his real name. The man who had kidnapped Jessica was actually named Dale Morrison, and he had been wanted in connection with the disappearances of 3 other women in different states over the past 2 years. The warehouse where Jessica was held contained evidence of previous victims. Different rooms set up as prison cells with women's clothing and personal items left behind. Police found driver's licenses belonging to the missing women, suggesting that Dale had been perfecting his method of luring and kidnapping women for years. Jessica spent weeks in the hospital recovering from dehydration and the psychological trauma of her ordeal. Even after her physical recovery, she struggled with nightmares, anxiety, and paranoia. The worst part was knowing that Dale was still out there. Police put out nationwide alerts, but he seemed to have vanished completely. Jessica lived in constant fear that he would come back for her or target another unsuspecting woman on dating apps. Months later, police in another state arrested a man matching Dale's description who had been caught attempting to drug a woman at a restaurant. It was him, but by then he had already claimed at least 2 more victims. Jessica learned that Dale had been operating across multiple states for years, using different names and fake profiles to lure women into meeting him. He specifically targeted women who lived alone or were new to areas where they didn't have strong social networks. The experience completely changed Jessica's life. She moved to a different city to start fresh and never used dating apps again. She couldn't trust that any online connection was genuine after learning how extensively Dale had researched and manipulated her. Jessica now volunteers with organizations that help educate women about online dating safety. She teaches them to always meet in public places, tell multiple people about their plans, and trust their instincts if something feels wrong. But she knows that no amount of precaution can completely protect against someone as calculating and experienced as Dale. He had spent months learning everything about her before making contact. He had planned every detail of her kidnapping and had backup plans for different scenarios. The scariest thing Jessica learned was that predators like Dale often appear to be perfect matches. They study their victims carefully and create fake personas designed to appeal to exactly what each woman is looking for. The connection feels real because it's based on real information about the victim, but it's all manufactured manipulation. Jessica still wonders about the other women whose belongings were found in that warehouse. Were they still alive somewhere, being held in remote locations? Had they been killed? She may never know the full extent of Dale's crimes or how many women he hurt over the years. The experience taught her that the person you think you're falling for might be studying you like a predator studies prey, learning your weaknesses and desires to use against you. Sometimes the perfect match is perfect because it was designed that way by someone with terrible intentions.